Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 268 of A Year of Change. Today I had a topic planned, but I'm going to sort of throw that aside for the time being and just sort of chat with you for a bit. I noticed something yesterday that sort of carried over into today, and so just in general I sort of want to talk about the weekends. Normally throughout the week, I get up in the morning, I do my treadmill, then I get cleaned up for work, and then I go to work, and then I come home and have a regular supper and go to bed, and my day is pretty much set out. I have a very set schedule throughout the day, and it helps keep me on track with everything. And I find, though, that during the weekends, I tend to want to sort of go back to I don't know if it's right to say I want to, but I tend to go back into those old eating habits. I don't stay on the same schedule. I don't have my breakfast at the same time because I don't wake up at the same time. I don't have my breakfast at the same time. I don't even record at the same time. I don't have my lunch. I don't have supper, and it's just sort of a little bit of everywhere because often I'm doing something, and oddly enough, if I'm out around like running errands and doing stuff, I seem to be okay. But when I'm home and I'm stuck there, or even if I'm just home, not necessarily having to be stuck, just not doing anything, that's when I noticed that those old habits start coming back. And this weekend, it was over 2 days. I ate an entire jar of pickles over 2 days. And overall, calorie-wise, you're only looking at maybe 100 calories for the entire thing. But there is a tremendous amount of sodium in it. And I think that may have been what my issue was this weekend. Anyway, I had issues before, which we'll get into. But after having that much, like I've been cutting way back on the amount of salt that I eat. We'll see my salt grinder. Keep calling it that. I did that yesterday too. I'll show you my salt grinder on at the start of next week. We'll do like a compare and contrast. But I used to go through a great big salt grinder in probably within a few weeks, easy. And I've cut way back. I've cut back on sugar and salt. Salt was my main killer though. That was the thing that I ate more of anything of. Like I could eat just bags and bags of chips, like great big bags, multiple bags in one sitting. So having, I think, a big influx of sodium all at once like that, like eating 3 and 4 pickles at a time, even though it's, calorie-wise it's very small, but sodium-wise it's 2 or 3 days worth of sodium all at once. And I think that did contribute to a lot of it because I felt like shit. Pretty much had a headache the entire weekend. Just felt lethargic and I wanted to nap and I didn't want to go anywhere. And of course at that stage then you're like, I'm bored and I'm grumpy and what is there to eat? And although I didn't go over my calories on Saturday, Sunday's a different story. Sunday, my calories were gone on Sunday by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Wasn't anything bad. I mean, I had a fairly big breakfast. I had like toast and eggs and rice, I think. And then I had shrimp for lunch. I had a very late lunch. But, of course, I went to a friend's house and, played D&D there. So that's my night when I go. Every 2 weeks, I have a night where I can go and I snack on whatever they have there. So I don't often go over, but, things being as they are. But aside from that, just the feeling that I had throughout the weekend was that same feeling that I had when I was eating 4 and 5 plates of nachos at a time or an entire rack of ribs at a time. Just that overall really shitty feeling all the way around. And I'm not blaming it all on the pickles, but having, a big jolt like that, I think probably contributed to it. But overall, during the weekends, I find those are the tough points for me that when I'm home, I don't really want to, I'm tired, I don't want to go anywhere, I don't want to really do anything. And, back in the day, that's what I would do when if I was bored, I would eat. If I was tired, I would eat. If I was, watching TV, I would eat. If I wasn't bored, I would eat. So I think sort of being stuck in that, I don't have to do anything today sort of mode is what triggers that. And in general, it's fairly successful I'm fairly successful in avoiding it. But this weekend was really, really tough because I found that I did sort of go on a bit of a binge. because I just sat and ate like 4 or 5 pickles in one sitting. I had shrimp, and then I had eggs and toast. And I mean, although I'm under technically for the day, having a binge like that, I mean, it's much, much better than obviously than the binges I would have had in the past. But that, I mean, I get filled up quicker, but that feeling is still there of now I'm uncomfortably full. I don't feel well. I have a headache. I want to sleep. And that's really tough to try to avoid. I mean, it's easy enough to avoid to just say, well, just don't go on a binge. I mean, I'm still binging, but I'm eating health food, or not really health food, but having pickles instead of Mars bars, I think, is a big improvement overall. Obviously, not the best choice. I shouldn't be doing that at all, and I mean, they are very few and far between. But I find that just being home on the weekend, being sort of stuck in that old familiar place, I guess is probably the best way to put it, does tend to lead me towards, those old habits. And you would think that after 9 months of doing this, then those habits would be gone. But I think where it's a little bit different than just saying, well, I chew my nails, or, well, smoking would probably be roughly the same. But I don't know what it is. It's that it could very well be that it's just because it's, 30, 40 years of that behavior being cemented in. I'm not going to get rid of it in 9 months. But then, of course, in my head, I'm thinking, that sounds like a cop-out. And you know what? You need to figure out what the issue is, why you keep going back to that. And I'm not binging every weekend. I don't want to sort of put that out there. And especially this weekend, because I thought I was really making good progress and I was going to, lose quite a bit of weight. Then I had shrimp and pickles, I think it was, Friday. I think it was Friday or Saturday, one of the 2 days anyway. And I think that really just sort of threw me all over the place. And in my head, again, I want to say that, oh, well, it's water retention. Because I can't imagine I'm storing and like eating it regular, like how I was, eating pickles and then storing that immediately as fat. So I'm not too discouraged on that. I mean, it's still discouraging because I've had, a couple of months now where I have I had a gain and then I drop and then I sort of stayed the same. Then I dropped a tiny bit. It is discouraging, but in my head, I'm thinking, okay, obviously I'm doing something. It's just the numbers are screwed for this weekend, or skewed, I should say, for this weekend. So, starting today, then I'm going to go forward and, try to get to where I need to be in the next couple of weeks. But combine that sort of disappointment along with being home and not having to go anywhere, I think those are some of the contributing factors to that. And it is rough because I'm to a stage now that even if I'm looking for something, I'm not hungry and I can stop that. But that mindless eating is really tough to sort of curb because normally I would have just kept eating and eating. I would have kept eating and eating. I would have kept just eating and eating and eating until I got physically sick. Not enough to barf, because that's disgusting, but enough where you're like, oh, I'm going to barf. Which I didn't do, but that risk is always there. It's really weird. It's like, I can only really equate it to smoking. When I used to smoke a lot. I used to smoke 4 packs a day. And in Canada, they're 25 a pack, so 100 cigarettes a day, which you can't really do much else but smoke. So you go out for, a 15 or 20 minute break from work, and you take in 3 or 4 cigarettes at a time there. Then you have an hour-long lunch, and you're just doing nothing but smoking there. Then you come home, and anyway, really, really bad. So I can only equate it to, it was easier for me to quit smoking because I got very, very sick, and not like cancer or something, just with the flu. And was sick for an extended period of time, a couple of weeks, and then when I came back, I haven't smoked in 2 weeks because I just don't feel like it when I'm sick, so I'm just not going to start again. But it's different with food because I would imagine, if I was to equate it to smoking, it would be the same thing as someone saying, okay, well, you need to quit smoking, but you have to have 1 cigarette a day, just one. But everything, that's as much as you can do. So, and I guess when you're sitting at home and you're bored and you're just so used to saying, well, this is normally when I would sit and just eat. Not consciously, obviously. This is something that's, in your subconscious, tucked away in there. to say, hey, well, you're bored, you should eat. That always fix things. I'm trying to get away from that, and I've been fairly successful. But just the fact that that's still coming back and saying, oh, well, you should eat because you're bored. It's like, no, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat anything. And I mean, the stuff that I am binging on are things like pickles and what was it? Yeah, pears. I had 3 pears yesterday. Oh, actually, let's see if I can tally these up. Had my regular, big breakfast. I had toast and eggs and some leftover rice, and then had shrimp for lunch. Then binged on pickles and pears. I think that was it. It's just that, having it so close together and having 5 pickles is a lot of food. It's half a big jar of pickles. And then 3 pears, not one right after the other, but having a pear and then like an hour later having another one and then a half hour after that having another one. So the binge foods are at least better than what they could have been, but it's the behavior that I'm trying to get rid of. The food I'm not really concerned with because there's really no risk of me saying, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to buy 10 boxes of cakes and eat them all, or a dozen donuts again. I don't feel that risk is there. I mean, the risk for binging is still there and the risk for eating donuts is still there, but I think I would probably get, to that point where you're just bleh, after 2 or 3. So I don't think that risk is there, but that behavior of overeating when I don't need it still is. That's the part that's really bugging me. And I think that was sort of part of the reason why I went through the pickles so fast, which of course, because the sodium levels are through the fucking roof, spiked everything that way, which made me feel like shit. And then on top of that, I don't know if it's a water retention thing. I'll find out probably later in the week when I start dropping rapidly, if that happens. But I mean, I'm back on track this week, so I'm staying, what I was doing last week, I'm going to do this week as well. I'm not going to try to force myself to drop those pounds because I don't want to get to that point. But I don't know. It just, that behavior, that's the core, or it's the root of, that's the core. The core root of the basis of the problem. But that's what I've been trying to get rid of for such a long time. And it's still really difficult because even now I'm thinking, oh, I'm hungry. I would have, it wouldn't bother me to say, well, I'll have 2 or 3 apples and then a bunch of things of celery and then an entire tub of cottage cheese. I could still eat healthy foods. It's that overeating aspect of it. That's the part that I want to get rid of. Because the junk food aspect of it, like the nachos and the ribs and the chips and French fries and, all the other stuff, that I think I'm out of the woods with that. Even when it comes to salty foods, although the pickles, yeah. But I wouldn't sit and eat an entire bag of chips now. I don't think that, I mean, I could, but I don't think that that's a real risk. But eating an entire bag of anything, really, that's this big, is still a behavior that I want to get rid of. And that's really what I'm trying to sort of flush out of my system. So I don't know what to do on the weekends with stuff like that. I would assume it would be, get up at the same time, still do my treadmill. I keep saying that throughout the entire weekend, and I still never do. That I should probably be doing the treadmill on Saturdays and Sundays as well, just to sort of, even if it was just a walk, so that I have at least that pattern going. And I know some of you are probably yelling at me, going, you know what, you've been saying this for 3 weeks. Yes, you should. So why aren't you doing it? Good point. It's a very good point. I have no defense for it. I don't know why I haven't been doing it, other than I'm lazy and I don't want to do anything on the weekends. But obviously that's causing a problem because I'm not doing anything. It's starting to foster those feelings of boredom, which just trigger that, okay, I should have something to eat. Maybe that'll help. So, I mean, aside from doing all the errands that I normally do on the weekend, like my laundry and, driving around with friends and going for coffee and visiting with them and stuff like that, it's not the same as having an 8-hour block out of my day where I go to work and have a set schedule. So, yeah, that probably is the best thing to do. And I know, I keep saying that over and over. Tell you what, here's what we're going to do. Starting on Saturday, and don't let me forget this, I will do my regular treadmill, even if it's not jogging, even if it's just for the walking, getting up at the same time, trying to stick at least to some semblance of a schedule, because I think that may help. Because during the day where I'm up at a specific time, and I know exactly at what time I need to do stuff. I know this is weird because I said yesterday I didn't want to plan out a whole bunch of meals because that would drive me nuts. I think I did. Was that Saturday or Sunday? Or I think it was something in my head that I thought afterwards. Anyway, yeah, the whole meal planning thing, like a week out or 2 weeks out, I couldn't do. But I like having that structure. Knowing that, okay, at 11 o'clock, here's what I'm doing. At 4 o'clock, here's what I'm doing. At 7:30, here's what I'm doing. I like having that set schedule. And I think that, trying to figure something out during Saturdays and Sundays, when I have those days off, should help. Again, this sounds like a really pissy, whiny video, but and especially where like if you binged on pickles and pears, so what? Yeah, but the fact is, it's still there. That trigger of eating to when I'm not hungry and when I don't need the food. Yes, the type of food that I'm eating is a lot better than some of the other choices, but it's still overeating, and that's what I'm trying to get rid of. So, anyway, yeah, just sort of want to talk it out. I don't know if this helps at all for any of you out there that are going through the same thing. It probably doesn't because I didn't really offer any solution. It's just pissing and moaning and saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, I obviously need to sort of smarten the fuck up and get on the schedule and stick to that during the weekends and just simply say no. Enough is enough. Which I have done a couple of times where I've started going out to the kitchen and I'm like, I want something. And then I think, no, you don't need it. You're not hungry. You just ate, a couple of hours ago. You obviously don't need this right now. And, I don't do that during the week, which is really weird. So maybe if I sort of stay busier on the weekends, or at the very least have a set schedule where I'm getting up and doing the treadmill and everything else. And if my Saturdays and Sundays can feel like my Monday through Fridays, that might help me a little bit. So, because I think that sort of that pattern, it's helped during the weekday anyway. And I think that may help during the weekend as well. So if any of you are going through the same thing, obviously, let me know down below. But maybe that's something that can help as well. If it's sort of a pattern thing where, yeah, I find that I'm eating when I'm, if it's late at night and I'm watching TV or, whatever is your trigger. For me, it's just a matter of, I don't know what to do, so I always would eat. And, trying to get rid of those bad behaviors and try to introduce new, better ones is really what we've been doing for the past 9 months. And it just feels like each weekend I sort of let that go. And that this is a Monday to Friday thing, which is really shitty. I know that that's still 5 out of 7 days where I'm doing things properly, but I want to be able to have my Saturdays and Sundays so that, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that and a Wednesday as to how I'm eating and how I respond to food, because this was a big part of it as well when we first started up, that we wanted to change how we reacted to food in general. And if I'm still doing that on the weekends, no matter what sort of food I'm eating, it's a little bit different, or a little bit different. That didn't make any sense. What I mean is, what do I mean? Let me think. It is, if I'm still doing the same behaviors, then this isn't doing me much good. That's what I was probably trying to think of. And it came out completely wrong and stupid. Anyway, that was it. I wanted to have a little bit of a sort of a talk through. Not even really a rant or anything like that. Just sort of a felt like shit this weekend. Here's why I think it happened, and hopefully the rest of this week is going to turn out a little bit better. But for right now, I'm going to leave this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.